Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning, Callum.
Hey, Marcin. How you doing?
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. The sun's out. I saw Aaron saying this in the chat. The sun's out. It's made me happy for the past couple of days, finally, to see a bit of sunshine. But it's not warm. You'd be deceived to think it's warm. It's not. Yeah. How about for
Yeah,
you?
I was visiting the lakeside last weekend, and it was -11 during the night and 11 during the day. So imagine this gap of
Oof.
temperature. But I saw some sun rising in London yesterday on some calls, and I'm jealous because we don't have this kind of weather right now here. But it's a big sinusoid of changing of the weather, so it will be fine for everyone. But it's been a very good and busy week, as we've discussed prior to go live here. And hopefully it was the same for all of you there. And thanks for being with us at the beginning of the show today. Like, subscribe, do all the other YouTube crazy stuff at the beginning to get your hands and minds free for the upcoming news. Because we have some of them
We still
collected.
have that target margin of 1,000 subs by Code Garden, right? Which there's about 3 months to go. So yeah, people better hurry up with that.
And we are not busy yet with creating multiple YouTube accounts to just subscribe ourselves. So help us with it if you can. And hopefully we'll have some milestone to be happy with on the events that are coming to us soon. And the checkpoint and the target of our 1,000 subscriber is at Code Garden. And the Code Garden just rolled out the ticket sale this week with some announcements of the first speakers, and that's very exciting stuff. We can talk about tickets first because we've mentioned previously that it's a hybrid event, and I was personally curious how it will be kind of distributed across the tickets types. Of course, we have the physical access pass, full online experience with unlimited access, and free online experience. That is very interesting offer for everyone who cannot go and just wants to, I know, put a stream on the second monitor and just observe what's happening on the major talks. And then
it says there select Umbraco related sessions. So I'm assuming that is probably the HQ ones, the important announcements, which probably a lot of people that's what they care about. And I'm hoping that still talks will be recorded because it's being streamed, and perhaps those will be available a little bit later. So but for me, like it's a no-brainer. If we can go in person, I'm going to go in person. I know a lot of people think the online thing's a lot more comfortable for them, and that's also good. I know people's wallets have been squeezed a bit this year.
Some people have buildings being made on. I saw some Twitter discussions. Team Paint probably also messaged that some buildings destroyed some budgets, and yeah, the price is going high everywhere. The prices are higher here as well, and it's a matter of calculations, unfortunately, and priorities. But I also prefer physical. And as I didn't access any of the online events through the whole pandemic, I will really love to get back to normal physical events. And thanks.
Here's how I'm trying to justify all of this cost. Like, I've not done a Code Garden in 3 years, so let's just assume I'm going to go 3 times as mad. But this is going to be let's spread that across 3 years, and it's fine. Interesting things to call out in this breakdown that we're starting to, I think, a glimpse of how Code Garden is going to be structured. So we're seeing for the virtual column there, the third point down is social events, networking, and workshops online based on availability, which I think implies that there's going to be some form of social event that I guess both people in person and in the online world can experience, which is cool. And I believe, I don't know if it's been revealed publicly or spoken about publicly, but I believe there was a discussion about having a workshops day, which I think is going to be the Friday. We were talking about how that's
we were talking about it, at some point.
So I think the Friday is actually a workshops day where people online can join, as well as some people in person. That'll be very interesting to see.
It is this type of challenges right now with the whole pandemic and the new world order, I would say, because again, it might be a huge opportunity for someone who cannot travel to Denmark, who don't want to travel to Denmark because of the whatever, basically, and the challenge for the organizers to make it happen and make it available for all interested. So already a big kudos to all the organizers involved there, because I know we all know how challenging it is, and that will be interesting.
We saw some pictures this week of Trina at the venue. I guess they were filming some kind of promotional video, which looked really cool. I know that there's been a lot of work on the speakers and the agenda that's been announced already. They've got some early bird discounts available. They've got hotel deals that you can go and book now. So like there's a lot of stuff that dropped this week, a lot of work that's clearly gone into that. So go buy your ticket.
I wanted to mention that these deals, and that was everything what was collected already for all of the previous Code Gardens, and I think it's worth to book up ahead, exactly, to not then find out that there is no hotels available, for example, in the whole audience, because that were situations like this in the past. Yes. But let's focus on speakers for a while, because we had some sneak peeks, maybe some details not directly said before, but the lineup, the first lineup launch is really exciting. Starting from the creators of C# language, like Mats Torgensen, who is massively involved in Microsoft for the whole C# creation and evolution. Scott Hunter, Scott Hanselman, some advocates from VMware, front-end developers from across the globe, and old co-owner of umbraCo, Per, plug, who some of the people didn't realize that he moved to Spotify recently as well. Maybe not that recently even so.
He was actually, Lottie and I were talking about this yesterday, that people maybe aren't too aware of what Per's been up to in recent years, but he's been doing some really awesome stuff. First at Zalando, which is like an e-commerce platform. We don't really have it in the UK, but it's big in Europe.
Yeah, we have it in Poland.
I think he was something security or open source related at Zalando, and now he's doing some really cool open source stuff at Spotify. And you wouldn't necessarily think of Spotify as a company that embraces open source, really. It's a kind of product that you just consume, but no, they are incredibly active. And to add to that further, it was announced this morning that they're going to have an MC to, I guess, host the live stream and kind of create some continuity across the event. And Suzanne Daniels, who's also one of Per's colleagues at Spotify, is going to be there MCing. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's nice. So that's the first round of speakers announced, and there's more coming, and we are all aware that there is more coming, and it's already exciting and interesting for both umbraCo interested people plus .NET interested people plus we also see how the content is already mixed with a focus on front-end areas as well, plus the careers advocates in the community. So that's very, very exciting stuff, and more to come with awards, MVP awards, and everything else on top of that. So as you've said, book out tickets, help organizers to prepare for it already, and count down. Did you check the Is It Code Garden Yet website?
Let's have a look. I don't know. Is it Code Garden Yet?
.NET? What was it? .NET or
no,
IO?
It says still some time to go until Code Garden 2021. So yeah, we need to get that updated, because I think Code Garden Fever really is now in progress, right?
Yes,
tickets,
that's true.
Hotels, speakers. It's only going to keep ramping up from here.
And restrictions going away from most of the countries. So that's
fingers crossed that all lasts, I guess.
Yeah, cool. And of course, besides talks, community aspects, social activities, there will be a lot of content, and we can already see some of the interesting updates and changes being released by umbraCo and community around it, starting from this one that brought a lot of discussions, a lot of problems as well for many, but also a lot of excitement for the other ones. SQL C is out from the umbraCo 10 build release, and it's replaced with SQLite version, and as I mentioned, it helps for some of us, but it also creates some problems and work for the other ones, especially for the ones who were relating on some SQL language and implementations done for the SQL C, or maybe some engines running on top of the SQL C as well.
Indeed, this is a super interesting one, because for the most people, they're not going to notice or care. Like I'm hoping, really, really hoping, that nobody in the world is trying to run umbraCo with a SQL C database in production.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
I really hope it's not a production ready system. Ultimately, Microsoft discontinued it in 2013. it doesn't support. Bjarke even said it kind of only worked by magic on the .NET 5 on V9. Definitely is not going to work in V10 with .NET 6. But also it's slower. It's just not fantastic. SQLite is a kind of industry-wide, cross-platform accepted version of this. It's not Windows only like SQL C. So it's quite cool to see that. But I often use it when I'm testing packages and stuff, just to spin up an Umbraco install really quickly.
Yeah.
That's really handy. But for people like package devs like Matt Brailsford, and he's obviously doing loads of custom database table stuff, it is going to create problems for him. So
yeah, and I think here the biggest kind of challenge was that should it be announced earlier, should it be included as an obsolete in the upcoming version, how it comes in combination with Semver that was announced with Umbraco releases, and it has its fair points, of course, and I think it was a challenging part for the Umbraco team as well to roll it out, but it needed to be replaced. But again, the approach to it might be different, might be difficult for the maintainers and someone who relates on it, but hopefully for all of our own good, it will be better to just rely on it. And as you've mentioned, I still remember some of the queries written to hack the data and varchars and the columns on this.
I remember having some conversations with Matt just last year about vendor performance, and we were saying, oh, we can do all these fancy things that we can do in SQL. And he's like, yeah, but we can't do that because of SQL CE. And so it's a shame that the platform there was holding us back. Hopefully this helps drive things forward. I do know that Matt said this week he's been looking at how he can abstract vendors' unit of work and database implementation away from Umbraco's database. So it could be, therefore, using Entity Framework or NPOCO or whatever, and then he's not so affected by Umbraco, which for an application of the size of vendor probably makes a lot of sense to be protected from these changes. I think as well, though, perhaps this took HQ by a little bit of surprise with the feedback that was received, that they maybe hadn't considered this to be such a, I don't know, maybe such a deal breaker for some. And maybe we'll think a bit differently about how dependencies are phased out or changed or upgraded in future, because it clearly does impact a lot of people, not just developers upgrading projects, but also package authors. And so, but I think there's also, as you said, Marcin, this is the right change to make. It's the time to make this change. Someone's got to break.
Major changes require major changes, and we were feeling bad with something holding us down with the legacy support and something what cannot be done because of some legacy stuff. Things needs to be removed, and I'm sure that Umbraco observes, discusses, and learns how it can be done even better. And with the further upcoming major breaking changes, it will be just rolled out safer.
Let's talk about long-term support for a second, because that's something that this also spurred a conversation about. Umbraco has committed to doing one LTS release every other year. Basically, every 4 releases will be an LTS release, and that makes Umbraco 10 an LTS release. And they're doing that so that they can align with the Microsoft LTS as well, which theirs are alternating years. So on that basis, a major release means they could make some breaking changes. But what do you think about long-term release? Is your appetite going to be to stick to LTS versions? Are you going to be trying to upgrade to every major, like with an increased release cycle? And if there's breaking changes in each, what happens?
Yeah, I think this is very common discussion amongst the teams recently, and I've been involved in a couple of discussions like this. And again, I understand some customers will rely on LTS because this is how they work. This is how their business requires that. From my personal experiences and my personal approach to that, I wouldn't stop on LTS. I would really aim to update to every new major as soon as possible. And I again observing how Umbraco release cycles changed since version 9 and 8 as well. It's more I'm and all of us should be feeling more comfortable in updating often. and general policy of updating as often as possible is my policy. But then we and big clients, enterprise clients who right now are maybe more interesting also for Umbraco, definitely will rely on our long-term support versions, and they will await the long-term support version for the big investments and big projects for sure.
Yeah, so that's it. That's an interesting point. We're also of the view of upgrade as frequently as possible, and it becomes less painful. The hope, I guess, would be that eventually those major release upgrades are as simple as the upgrades that we've seen between minor versions within 9, for example. Really straightforward, kind of mostly automatic, very few things you have to worry about. That's the hope. For me, I think the LTS version is going to become a kind of baseline where you say, now if someone came to you with a V6 site and said, can you help us build a new feature on it? You'd go, really upgrade. And I think that's going to become the baseline. Someone says in 2 years' time, we've got an Umbraco 9 site. You know, that really should be Umbraco 10. When we've got Umbraco 15, hey, that really should be Umbraco 14. So I think that makes sense. The question then becomes, should LTS releases have massive breaking changes in them? Take V10 out of the question for now, because this one breaking change here is necessary. My view would be that an LTS version on that basis should be like the most stable thing you could possibly imagine. So take version 11, 12, and 13 as your opportunity to break things, make a few people upset, but get it absolutely right so that your LTS version, the thing that you're committing to supporting for, I think they say 3 years or something, don't they, is as rock solid as it could possibly be. So it's more of just a finalization of features and things rather than just more and more breaking changes, because there does have to be a point where you can feel comfortable upgrading without having too much pain, or there needs to be an end to that at some point.
It's a very interesting topic, to be honest, and it maybe some more experienced and well-established product owners can relate to that, because from my understanding initially it was like a long-term support, maybe without that many crazy changes. Maybe let's experiment in between and then include the big rollout of this feature in the next long-time support version, something like that. And I don't know if this is strategy, or the strategy is to have something like that in the upcoming long-time support and await long-time support version. But generally, as a software consumer and not a client who invests that much in advance, we shouldn't care that much, to be honest. It's like ongoing support and ongoing updates are still upcoming here right now. It's like here it's just a confirmation that this version will be supported from the HQ perspective, and still it doesn't mean that version 11 won't have any new features, and version 12 as well, etc. So that's exactly
there's a lot of people in the chat sharing their views on this, which is very interesting. Something I was going to say is, I think V10 in the scheme of things is too early to have an LTS release to be making these big breaking changes. And maybe this one time is the exception because they're doing it to align with .NET 6, which is the Microsoft LTS release. And from there onwards, the LTSs will always line up with the .NET release. So this one time is possibly the exception, but it feels incredibly early in the journey to be having to do that. At the same time, I think it's necessary. And maybe the longer, maybe it's very easy to look at this in the kind of 6 month to 1 year window, but we should be looking at this as a 5-year window. What happens over those 5 years?
But take a quick look from other perspective. Would you be happier if the breaking changes would be stopped because of some of the version or dependencies like this, like instead of being just brave and roll them out? Because breaking changes are breaking changes. They are supposed to break something. So in theory, if they will be rolled out better and with the bigger period in advance, everyone should be able to rely on it. And maybe this kind of graph will help us to adjust to the recycle periods. And now it's just done in maybe bigger rush because the first release is there. We will see. We'll see. I'm really curious about it. But I as a huge YOLO fan, I'm not scared about breaking changes. It's more like
a lot of people on Twitter and elsewhere were sharing the same sentiment as you, Marcin, where hey, Umbraco's been too held up on not being allowed to break things for so long.
Exactly.
We should be allowed to break things. We need the opportunities to do that. And I think there's a balance somewhere between the two.
And you cannot make everyone happy. That's the balance again. You need to work on. Interesting stuff. And Carl also shared here that coming back to Microsoft, there's a lot of conversations across Twitter and Reddit about whether their LTS plan is also too short. So we cannot have another dependency on Microsoft and their LTS and other LTSs. It's just I think it's just the software creators' promise to support this version, and the rest is purely numbers and the cycles that we need to rely on. We'll see. We'll all see and learn from this experience.
Let us know in the chat, in the comments, what your thoughts are on this. It's definitely a big topic. If it's something that we need to discuss more, maybe we can finally do another Lungo episode, Marcin, that we've been meaning to do for yet another year. We haven't done one. But hey, it's definitely a big topic. So yeah, share your thoughts.
Yeah.
We'll
share your thoughts with us. Yeah. And that was the really big discussion this week, and a lot of conversations around that. The rest of releases, maybe. An interesting release from Layton called Blip, a block list item picker for Umbraco CMS. I didn't see it, to be honest, in the meantime, and I was surprised to see it today. But it's a very interesting package to help us with dealing of multiple blocks and new structures of the content for the Umbraco.
This idea that it kind of supports sharing block lists all over the place, where you can pick a block list item. That's really, really awesome. We've had this request for nested content items before. Can I refer to that somehow? And the answer's been no, but in theory it was always quite doable. We thought about it, but never really did it. There were some questions earlier about could we make indexing of these work nicely, so you could index the property with some values. I'm sure that's possible. But yeah, really awesome stuff from Nathan.
Yeah, good
Only dropped this morning, and it's for V8 and 9. He's supporting both of them.
Yes, both of them, and since 3 months that when it all started. So it's interesting that it's getting used, and probably more of us will use it in the new builds. Then the Limbo releases from Anders, starting from Limbo YouTube, a video player for V9, and this is a property editor for inserting via URL or embed code any YouTube video. So extension for V9 focused on the YouTube, on Nougat already there. Second one is Dream Broker, and
never heard of that, but I guess it's another video
never
service.
Heard about it as well. Yeah, a Dream Broker video. So I assume that this was extracted from one of the integrations done by Anders and the Limbo team. And if anyone will need to use the Dream Broker embedded videos, this is where to go. And then the last list on this list today is not from Limbo team this time, but it's an Umbraco Navi hide icon package.
I really like this one. So this is putting a little icon in the tree when you've marked something as Navi hide. We've done this before. I know that I think protected content already does it. It puts a little icon next to things, and you have the same for published or saved without changes published. And that's cool. But I'm a big fan of hijacking the tree to add these icons or little indicators for editors. Something we do with our homepage on a couple of sites, where we let the editor pick what the homepage is. We will override the icon in the tree to be the home icon when that's selected as the homepage, because it may not be called home, for example. Just little things that make an editor's life easier. But
yeah, I would definitely see more of this kind of hijacked actions. I saw some approaches for tooltips or notifications on the pages as well done like this, and maybe not with the icons.
Seal made one that made the icon spin around or something for a bit of fun, I think.
Yeah, but this one is very helpful, and again, maybe something to be considered as more common extension of Umbraco tree, because still, if you can save some time by just watching on the or checking the tree instead of going to the page and seeing if it's visible or not visible, why not to do it like that, right? So that's really cool extension. And yeah, that's from the packages side. And the next news is about back office, and someone mentioned back office here in the long-term support discussion as well. But there is a new version, the 2.0 version of back office community team being formed right now. And following the previous blog post and having new steward of the team in the person of Jacob here, the new team is being formed. And where is the deadline? Where's the deadline? Deadline is April 1st. Yep. So
is it really
relatively soon?
April 1st. Yeah, this is they're going to be doing some interesting work. We discussed this with Ken a couple of weeks back, didn't we?
Yes. Yes, that's true.
The idea is the team thus far has kind of been helping define what the APIs and what the extension points look like for the back office and the components, of course. And then this is more about implementation. How are they going to start building a new back office with these components and all of these things that they've defined? And this is also not, I believe, not closed to people who are on the team before. So whilst they've reset the team, that doesn't mean that people that weren't on the team before, can't be on it again if they feel that their skills add value. But I know that when we talked about this with Ken, there's people who are far more like architects, and there's people who are far more front-end developer focused, and a mix of those skills is really helpful. So they want to find a new bunch of people. It's very cool.
Yeah, and again, it's like one of the ways of contribution for someone who don't need to write a code, fix PRs, and does crazy stuff on the performance engines of Umbraco. It's an opportunity to really analyze how the content editor's experience looks and works in the back office. Maybe also focus on how it's implemented and help the technical people implement it. So I'm heavily advocating joining the team if someone is interested on how HQ works, how community works, and how to help in general. So
yeah,
good. So deadline is closing very, very, very soon. And coming back to back office and some explorations, Warren shared his proof of concept on.
Hang on a second, Marcin. Pull request of the week. It's back. Yeah. I like this. So it's even though it's a draft and a proof of concept, Warren, you get pull request of the week.
Yeah, that's true. Because in theory it's a proof of concept, but it's natural steps we were already talking about with replacing all the Umbraco back office components and sections with the UI library components being built being built and released previously. So it's happening, and again, we've been talking when is the moment of using them, when package creators or our custom dashboards should rely on them, and it seems like it is a moment if it will land in Umbraco first, and this is showing how it can be replaced. No excuses.
Some people on Twitter discussing how you can hook that in with AngularJS. Of course, this is kind of web component based, framework agnostic, or as much as possible. But you can hook into the events through AngularJS and get everything you need, and it does work in the back office. Something I wanted to highlight that I guess I kind of expected, but I wasn't sure was going to happen is this UUI is not just lifting components out of the back office and making those work or making them standalone. They have, in many cases, redesigned some of them with slightly more accessible colors and what's it called? Difference between colors.
Contrasts and
contrast. That's the word.
Yes.
The screenshot that Warren shared there had an example of a notification, which was more like a pop-up in the bottom left-hand corner. It's a bolder green color than we've seen in the back office historically. Also got some other components that we maybe haven't seen, like these sorts of with the star and stuff. It all looks a little bit bolder and brighter and thicker. I also noticed recently, and I don't know if this is a recent change in Umbraco 9, but the icons in the tree are all a little bit bolder and brighter. So
bigger.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if this is just the direction things are going. So in addition to the new back office from a technological point of view, are we going to see some slight UI changes? I reckon. And I'm not upset about that. Like I really like the V8 back office. I think it's really good. I wouldn't want to see a total redesign like we saw between 7 and 8 again, but
Yeah.
a bit of a freshen up. It's probably about time. By the time this comes out, well, we're not talking, next week, are we? It's going to be a
but
so.
but also with that, having it components driven, it's like small improvements happening over the time can improve our layouts as well and affect our changes. So if there will be a contrast issue discovered on some of the buttons or anything, or colors even, so almost instantly we can benefit from these changes being fixed in the component stuff. So that's where I see opportunities for not heavily relying on copying and pasting what was improved, but generally just updating to the newer version of components and just utilizing what was improved in the meantime. That's my kind of angle to that. But it's really good to see it. And again, I think everyone who will be building the new sections, new dashboard, new packages, maybe from now on, will have a less headaches in getting into the designs or views here, instead of just copying whatever was done in the latest, greatest packages or integrations on the market. So yeah, good work. And Warren, I don't know what will be the award for Umbraco pull request of the week. We'll figure it out.
You get a gold star.
We'll figure it out. The next thing is meetups, and there's a still virtual meetup happening in Edinburgh group on March 24th, with some speakers and demos to be announced still. So yeah, everyone can visit the Edinburgh meetup on this day. So it's happening March 23rd. And the one which we already mentioned, the one which caused my tongue crazy, virtual umbraCoffee meetup, March 29th, back. And yeah, it's Azure App Service oriented discussion on how not to autoscale, what we've already mentioned.
This looks very cool. And I was going to add on to this. We yesterday had the Umbraco Kent meetup, the first in-person meetup I've been to in quite a long time. I've been to a couple, but the first like Umbraco meetup with talks. I did a talk. Matt did a virtual talk. It was interesting. I think it was quite responsible. People kept their distance and stuff. But I saw that the umbraCoffee meetup are also gauging people's opinions on what going back to in-person meetups might look like. I know that coming up in a couple of weeks in London, we have an in-person meetup happening, purely because Philip's going to be in town, and it's an opportunity that we can't really miss to have something. But again, interested to hear people's thoughts on how meetups can go back to in-person and while still having online versions as well, maybe alternating or predominantly online, occasional in-person ones, whilst keeping it safe, what people would feel comfortable with. I'd be really interested. Maybe you can reach out to me on Twitter or be helpful.
Let's create a poll. Let's create a poll on Twitter. I created one on the Facebook group in Polish community, because as I've said, I want to reborn Polish meetups. And again, most of the people are very happy to gather again in person. So we will definitely go to organize some smaller meetups in smaller communities across the cities here, and talk about Umbraco again more and more, because people are just, and most of us are just awaiting new opportunities to network again. So that's what we are going to do. But yeah, let's create a poll and let's gather some votes, because that will be definitely interesting input for all the meetup organizers as well. The next on our list are articles being read on YouTube by 24 Days team. And finally, I reached out the point where my article is released.
Marcin,
and it has
your video
45 minutes.
45 minutes long.
Sorry, Lottie.
What are you doing to Lottie?
I was mentioning it that it will hurt, and I don't even plan to listen to it. I wrote it, so sorry. I did already the most of the crazy work there. But yeah, all of the articles being read and available on YouTube for everyone to listen. And especially for people who cannot read, for example, on the screens and wants to just listen, maybe somewhere in the background as well. 4 of them being released this week, starting from the day 17, 18, 19, and 20. So yeah, a lot to catch up. I saw there are a couple of views of every article on YouTube, so someone is listening to them. and that's definitely something what we want to, and the 24 days team wants to analyze at the end of the series if it was worth doing.
Yeah,
so,
Lottie mentioned that yesterday that one of I think the first article, which was by my colleague Joe, has had like 65 odd views, which it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a really reasonable number. I'm wondering as well if these are linked anywhere, maybe from the articles. That would be really cool to have a nice easy button you could just click and go listen to it as well from the articles. That would be really nice. But it's a lot. There's a lot of effort going into reading these, I think.
And that's why we really need to share kudos again with the whole team, because it is a lot of time to record anything basically, like with the quality like this, and this is really done well. So that's definitely for all of the teams good, and everyone who might benefit from listening to these articles. Keep them coming. Four more to come, and then the month is done.
And of one of them, I think Carl, he already did a video to go alongside his blog. So Lottie was saying she gets a week off next week because Carl's already done the job.
Nice. Nice one. Cool. The next is a series of blogs highlighted this week. Lots of blogs, starting from Jason, writing the blog about enabling non-unique node names in Umbraco 9. So one of these 3 crazy optimizations, Callum, from your
this is a fantastic thing for when you're doing like automatically routed content. For example, articles in date folders where you may have the same article in 2 different months, but the resulting route is different, but it's working the same, and actually incredibly small amount of code, which is really cool to see. Although it is replacing the document repository from the core, but it's doable with a few lines of code, which is awesome.
That's good to know how to handle this kind of situations in Umbraco v9 with the new repositories being there. Good one. The next one is about indexing block list data in Umbraco 9 from Jesper, and this is also interesting because we've been talking about the search and the new data structures and everything else, and it's done for the test site on the portfolio starter kit. So it's already tested in kind of real life. We can index again relatively easy index content from block list and search for it with our search providers. And this is a great example on how to also do search of the custom property data on Umbraco 9. Yep. So nice work from Jesper, and not last yet, but the next one is from Soren. An image processor.
I'm loving the kind of work Soren's been putting into his thumbnails and the descriptions, and he's been doing loads of clickbaity things on Twitter. It's very, very, very good.
But the topic is also interesting here, and this thumbnail is amazing. How to stop spammers from abusing image processors to flood your Umbraco 8 logs. Check it out. I wanted this. I won't describe much about it. Figure it out. That's another clickbait to go to check the source article. The next is Dennis and his new post about moving from Optimizely and Umbraco CMS. I like this one too, because the Optimizely Developers Guide to Umbraco and vice versa is a very interesting topic. It's about migrating projects and how the 2 CMSs are different, basically. So I haven't been using Optimizely, to be honest, and is Optimizely the new name for
Episerver?
What was the previous Episerver? Yes, that's the one. So I haven't used it, both of them, and it seems like it's possible to relate one to another, and we can figure it out. And this presentation gathered 69 people already, so it's like kind of very good number of people. The next one is about, and of course, the links to all articles will be in the video description here on YouTube, so you don't need to search for them on Google. You can click and visit them. The next one is from John here, and it's about how to host Umbraco 9 using Docker. So another Docker description and tutorial with I don't know how John is finding time again. We need to reach out to John and get him.
He's doing so much content. He's doing JavaScript stuff. He's been doing Optimizely content. He's been doing Umbraco content.
Crazy.
He's all over it. He's doing everything with a detailed article and a video to accompany each. It's incredible.
But also see how many people relate to this article, how big discussions and how big activity is created around every single publication created by him. So it's very interesting to see that, and yeah, just keep them coming, and definitely it's interesting to see and learn from John how he's creating so much content. We'll figure it out. And Andy wrote also a blog on March 18th about service location.
I'm going to apologize to Andy first here, because he's not promoted this anywhere. There's a story behind this. So my talk yesterday, I was doing a talk about migrating some of my packages from V7 to V8 to V9 and the differences, the different approaches. And one of them, I was describing how I have a bunch of static methods that I use to extend vendor, to kind of make a nice API without having to modify vendor in any way that I can hang off vendor. And to do that, I sometimes need to go and fetch a service. Now with Umbraco 8, we had a singleton service locator in current.factory that allowed us to go and get services. And that's a cardinal sin in the eyes of like DI purists. You should never do that. Absolutely not right. And then I was saying how actually in 9.0, they got, it's DI all the things, but they still had to ship a service locator, and they shipped it internally in Umbraco. It was all internalized until 9.01, as Andy's pointed out here. And I ended up having to do the same thing, and Matt in vendor has ended up having to do the same thing. So we've now got multiple packages that are all shipping their own internalized service locators. And there is sometimes, very occasionally, a time when you have to sacrifice the DI purists and do something that make this work. Andy's great example was for non-breaking changes, where you want to obsolete a constructor but add dependencies to your constructor. So he's used this and he's documented it, which is awesome. So that's how this blog post came about. Emma, off the back of yesterday's meetup, went to stand up at Umbraco this morning and went, "Do we really have a service locator in core?" And Andy went, "Yes, we do."
Yes, we have. Yeah, it's like we've all been there probably. Sometimes we need this kind of approaches. Some of us are doing some poor man's DI as well in some of the projects, because there is no other better way. But it's good to see how it can be done, how it's done, how it's handled with even this obsolete calls for the Umbraco methods. And yeah, that's.
So in my case, because my vendor package is multi-targeted, I needed to have a service locator pattern that would work across both. And so maybe it's finally time I did a blog post where I showed how I did that, because it's maybe 5 lines of code. It's quite nice and easy to use, and completely gets around Umbraco's service locator too. So I don't know, maybe it's time. Clearly people are doing these things.
Still. Cool. So thanks, Andy, for writing it up. And the last announcement on our list is a kind of celebration and congratulations to vendor team on reaching out 100 licenses. And you've mentioned vendor extensions, and it's a huge milestone, I think. Again, it's like just showing how the project evaluated over the time. I don't know what is when it was exactly when it was burned or changed the name from T-commerce. How long ago it was? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? More? Callum, do you know?
It was 20.
It was before pandemic for sure.
It wasn't quite. So it was shown at Spark. Matt did a talk at Spark in 2020,
18,
just as everything kicked off, and then it was released 29th or 30th of March that same month, just in time, because I think everyone wanted an e-commerce store during the pandemic. And here we are 2 years later.
Yeah, 100 licenses and still constant growth. plus evolution, as we mentioned, with Matt being very active in bringing and abstracting and improving many things in between for both Umbraco packages, new things, and also all the crazy work we've been talking about recently with the ELSA workflows and event-driven approaches. So yeah, more to come. And congrats on this milestone for the whole team out there. And definitely right now, if there's an e-commerce discussion, the vendor is always present in the stake. So everyone needs to check it out if you are considering e-commerce built on top of the Umbraco for sure. And that's all from our list of news this week. If we missed anything, let us know as usual. And final call to help us get to 100 subscribers. Sebastian said that he is already using his 3 accounts for subscribing.
So if everyone subscribed, used 3 accounts, we'd have like 2,000 subs. So clearly, that's what everyone needs to do.
After 1,000, we'll be able to monetize some of the content. So then we'll have an advert in between of the episodes.
Maybe we can reveal this at another time. There's a lot of metrics you need to hit in order for us to monetize this. So until then, you're going to be seeing like we're sponsored by Squarespace or Optimizely or something, some of our episodes. But we also need to improve our watch time. So if people could like watch episodes twice, that would also allow us to monetize. So 1,000 subs, watch the episodes twice, and then we'll have about enough viewing hours to be able to make 2 cents a month of it.
Yeah, of course, that's the next on our roadmap right now. 1,000 subscribers, then we will hire some bots to rewatch our umbraCoffee episodes multiple times, and all of it is upcoming. Right now, we want to focus on delivering high quality content and do not miss a lot of news being released every week. But then we can reach out to WordPress and other CMSs to support our channel and and help us monetize it. But yeah, thanks for all of you watching today with us. There was a high number of people at the same time, so it's amazing to see you all here. Let us know in the comments what are your thoughts about the topics we've highlighted today, and yeah, as usual, join us on the next Friday.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks Callum, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.